All right. Hi, everyone. It is Marcia Howard again of New Treatment with Marcia. And I just want to thank you for those of you who, for those of you who will be joining me while I'm doing this session. We're here for another 30 minutes today. I'll be talking about today how clean eating helps to improve your gut health and your immune system. Clean eating and how it improves your immune system and gut health. Big topic today, but I will do my best to talk about this in our 30-minute session. I missed you guys last week, but I had some family stuff going on. And I like to take time out so that I can spend time with my family. So yeah, we had birthdays. We have a lot of birthdays between January and February in our family. So it seems like if almost every week we're celebrating something. So yeah, so I'm back today. And thank you very much for showing up and for watching my my class, my mini webinar, as I like to call them. All right, so let's get started. I hope everyone is doing well and you guys had a great 2 weeks. Yeah, I'd love to hear how your week, the 2 weeks, how did it go? What did you do with yourselves? How are you taking care of yourselves? Yeah, I'm really interested to find out what's going on with you, with all of you. Thank you to all of you, or at least those of you who subscribed to my email channel and liked and shared the videos. If you have, share them with your friends and family, because I think it's valuable information that we all need at some point in time or another. All right, so today I want to talk about clean eating. Now, and what it has to do with gut health. Now, why do I want to talk about clean eating, and what does clean eating at all have to do with your immune system and gut health? And what does the gut have to do with your immune system? Are they related? And the short answer to that is yes. So plain and simple, our motto should be eat clean, eat simple. It's nice to have fantastic meals. It's nice to go out and, have all these extravagant meals. We try all these fancy recipes. God knows I love to cook and I'm always looking for new recipes to try. It breaks the monotony of the everyday things that we eat. Sometimes the recipes we consume or the foods that we consume, it isn't always healthy. Eating out isn't always a healthy approach. Why? Because oftentimes when you the ingredients that these restaurants may use, it may not be what you will use at home. So that is something we do once in a while, or should be something that we do once in a while, rather than it becoming the norm. We shouldn't be eating out too often. Eating and cooking your food at home and cooking what you eat at home, the regions that are or tend to be healthier in the various zones, they actually are healthier in the long run. Why? Because they eat at home, or they cook their foods and they eat at home. Most of them grow their foods at home and they're able to consume what they plant. And I know it's not possible for all of us. We can't grow everything that we eat or consume, but we can certainly pick something that we want to grow, whether it's sweet peppers, tomatoes. I grow a lot of tomatoes in the summer. I live in the United Kingdom, and in the summer it's nice and warm. Tomatoes love that type of temperature. I grow a lot of tomatoes, but this year I would like to grow something else, perhaps sweet peppers, um, perhaps zucchini, courgettes. So yeah, it's just about clean eating. And clean eating, or the foods that are considered clean, are the ones that have little to no pesticides or fertilizers. The fertilizers are natural products, and pesticides are just as natural. So that's a different topic. So I'm not going to talk about that today. I'm just going to focus on clean eating, and we're talking about farm to table. What are we eating and what's on the table? Now, clean eating does affect our gut. Why? Because 95% of our serotonin, that's the happy hormone, is manufactured in your digestive system. 95% of it. There is a link between depression and poor digestion, as well as poor nutritional intake. There is a link between the two. 80% of your immune system is manufactured in your digestive system. So in the lining of your gut, in the lining of our guts, that's where our immune system, in those cells, the lining, that's where our immune system is manufactured. If anything happens to our gut and it becomes compromised for whatever reason, it can affect our body's ability to heal itself. That is why your immune system can go very low or become compromised over time. And the longer the problem exists, the more susceptible you become to things like autoimmune disorders. So if we have to focus on strengthening our gut. We focus on body strength, building muscle. We focus on keeping our mind strong, or strengthening our brains, so that we are not we are not susceptible to things like dementia. It helps to keep the health of the brain, keep us sharp, our thinking. We do all of that. We focus on building our spirit man. I'm a born-again Christian, a follower of Jesus Christ, as I've said in past classes. And I focus on building my spirit man, because I know if I build my spirit man, then I'm able to deal with a lot of what life has to offer. Why aren't we doing the same with our digestive system and our gut health? It should be something that we focus on every single day. So let us start first off with our digestive system. Now, I'm not going to be able to cover everything that I want to cover today. So for the rest of this month, we are going to focus on clean eating and building the immune system. And I will be giving you tips and tricks on how to get that done. You know, yesterday I was preparing a write-up for my website. And I wanted to talk about my own experience with having to build my gut health. And while I was writing it, this is the God's honest truth. I never put two and two together. It was the first time it jumped out at me the way it did yesterday. That growing up, I had a compromised immune system. I remember as a child, from the age of 5, it could have started earlier, but that was my recollection. I used to experience regular bouts of tonsillitis. I would get antibiotics. I would have these lozenges that I had to suck. My throat was always sore. I cannot remember when it stopped, but it eventually did. I remember growing up with lots of colds and flus, and even into my teenage and young adult years. Every single year, sometimes twice a year, I would have a flu, and it would be really bad that I would have a cough for months. I would have to go to the doctor. I would have to get antibiotics. I can tell you what the regimen was now. Um, I would be given antibiotics. I would be given a steroid, and I would be put on a bronchodilator like Ventolin every single time until I started my journey into natural medicine. That's when things started to change for me. Things began to change after I had done my first detox, my very, very first detox. I did a 40-day detox. And that detox it cleared a lot of stuff out. I did have an immune response to it. I remember back then I did get a really bad flu as well. My lungs and my chest seemed to be the most vulnerable place for me. That has since changed. And with all of these things that were happening, after I had done the detox and I started eating clean, because after that detox really challenged me with my relationship with vegetables. I did not like vegetables. Funny enough, I grew up in a house. My grandmother, she was the prominent cook in the house, and she would prepare healthy meals. But we did not eat a lot of vegetables, things like salad items, lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, all the array. She would cook with them in the food, what she was preparing, but it was something we did on special occasions. I kid you not. And doing the detox challenged me to eat more vegetables, and I actually began to like them. So now I eat a lot more vegetables. I have a lot more veggies on my plate than I did in my teenage and younger years. And what I have learned from that is that cleaning up my eating, another thing that came to the fore was the fact that I was lactose intolerant. I should not have been drinking milk. And that was something I never knew. I knew I didn't like milk, but I ate things like ice cream and cheese, and it upset. It was affecting my body and causing inflammation, and I was unaware of it. So I wasn't sure what was going on. But after I did the detox, then it became quite clear what was happening. And I just wanted to share that story with you, because there are things that are happening in your body that you are unaware of. You haven't made the connection that it is affecting your health. You know that things have changed. And I can mention a cousin of mine who, within the last 2 to 3 years, developed an intolerance to milk. And now she cannot eat anything with milk because it affects her gut, and she experiences a lot of pain. The fact is, by the time stuff like that happens, it usually is now chronic. And there may have been changes that were happening years before, and nothing, no attention was paid to it. And one way to know whether you may be lactose intolerant, check sinuses. If you tend to have a lot of sinus issues, one thing you may want to do is cut all dairy out of your diet for a period of 2 weeks and see how that changes. 14 days. After the 14 days, put dairy back into your diet and see what happens. That's a clue. Yeah. So if we are to go back to the basics of eating clean and how it affects our digestive system, then the first thing we need to do is understand what is clean eating. Now, if we understand what clean eating is, then it will help us to recognize where the toxins are coming from. So what is clean eating? Clean eating basically is eating foods that are free from pesticides, no long words that when you flip the packaging over the ingredients, there are words in there that you cannot recognize. It's just filled with all sorts of things other than the foods that you're actually buying. So clean eating should be nothing more than what you want to eat. So for instance, if you made bread, I make bread quite often, and my bread basically has 5 ingredients. You have flour, you have water, you have the leavening agent, you may have some sugar in there to activate the leavening agent, especially if you're using yeast. And you have some type of fat in there, meaning that you have either coconut oil or you have olive oil in there, 5 ingredients. If you went to the shop and you bought a loaf of bread, there will be more than those 5 ingredients. Oh, and salt. I forgot salt. Yeah, there's going to be more than those ingredients. You're going to have dough conditioners in there. You're going to have preservatives in there because when they make the bread, it has to last a certain length of time on the shelf. That is not considered clean eating. Plus the additives that go into the mixing of the dough, or even the flour. After they bleach the flour out and remove a lot of the nutrients, then they want to put it back. That flour is not considered a whole food. That flour is often fortified. So if you want something that's more a whole food, you have to look at unprocessed flours. And when I say unprocessed flours, you're looking at organic flours, stone mill, things that used processes from long ago in order to make that happen, to get the flour to happen. So when you are used to buying foods in boxes and bags, or even eating out, the idea of eating clean can sound foreign and a little too far-fetched, and far out of your league. But to put it simply, clean eating is simply filling your diet with whole and natural foods. That's what clean eating is, whole and natural food. So if anything is a lifestyle that promotes vitality, and it can actually add to longevity, because if you're eating clean and natural foods, foods that are whole in their natural state, then you are actually adding to your to the nutrients that your body needs on a daily basis. So what type of foods am I talking about? I'm talking about fruits and veggies. Now, as I said, I mean, the world we live in a world now that has, our foods are loaded with toxins. They are almost everything we buy now on the shelf has been manipulated in some way. A lot of what we eat is genetically modified. So let me give you an example of what a clean fruit or food is. If you're buying grapes, don't buy seedless grapes. Why? Because everything in nature creates and replicates itself. Those grapes without seeds cannot replicate itself. It is not natural. So if you are buying grapes, make sure you buy seeded grapes. They have more nutrition in there, and you know that you're not eating something that is genetically modified. Yes, seedless grapes are genetically modified grapes. Whole grains. When I say whole grains, they have not been processed to the hilt and everything removed out of it. Bleached white flour is not a whole grain. If you look at something like spelt flour or the ancient grains like amaranth, quinoa is another ancient grain as well. Those are all considered whole grains. Parboiled rice or white rice, they are manufactured, processed as well, and stripped of all of their fiber. Look for whole grain brown rice, where the fiber is still intact, because you need the fiber. And over the next couple of weeks, I'll explain to you why you need the fiber and what the importance of fiber is. Clean meats and proteins. You know, one of the things that I went out today, and on my way home, my mind is always going. I'm always thinking about health, wellness, foods, you know, what we can do, you know, to improve what we eat. And one of the things that I thought about was grass-fed beef. I had just come from the butchers, and I was thinking about grass-fed beef. And one of the things that I'm going to look at is what makes New Zealand so successful, their meat industry so successful. They have set guidelines in place that industrialized farming is not part of what they recommend to their farmers. Much of their dairy cattle is grown grazing, grass-fed beef. Grass-fed beef has more nutrients in there than commercially farmed animals, cows. And their milk, the nutrients in the milk, people who drink and consume grass-fed, the milk of grass-fed cows, have less allergies than those who consume milk from industrialized farm animals. And that is something that you need to think about. The butter, the cheese, if we can switch to grass-fed. Now, of course, because the standards are so high, grass-fed meat, milk, and all dairy products, they are more expensive than those that are commercially produced. And there's a reason for that. It is better, but if you have to have it, you don't have to have it often, but if you do have to have it, it is better to buy the good stuff, because I think our bodies deserve it. So clean meats, that's meats not treated with antibiotics, and all these growth hormones that actually increase, speed up the growth process of the animal. Yeah, we don't need to eat those type of meats. and simple ingredients that don't, as I said, that don't have long names and they're difficult to pronounce. So look at your spices and your herbs. Look at your starting a herb garden. That's an easy thing to grow. Start a herb garden. You have parsley, you have basil, you have thyme, and it doesn't matter where you are. If you can start a herb garden, you can start it, bring it inside. There's some herbs that last throughout the winter. My parsley and my thyme, they're coming along quite nicely. Basil tends to have a shorter life, but look into doing or adding, herbs that can actually add to the nutritional value of your food. Now, there is a reason why I'm telling you this about herbs. And as I said, over the couple weeks, I will be talking to you about that again. And so the number one hack that I wanted to let you know, because we have just about 4 minutes, and I'll expand on this again. Let this coming week here, until I talk to you again next week, let this week be the week that we ditch the processed foods. I want you to go to your cupboards, have a look at what's in your cupboards, pay attention to the labels. What are you eating? Make a list of those foods, and I will put my email address at the bottom of the video when I post it onto YouTube, and I want you to tell me what's in your cupboard. What is in there? What are you eating? What do you buy? Why do you like the food? Because why do you like it? You must like it if you're buying it. What are you buying? And I want this to be your homework. And I want to hear from you so that next week we can talk about it. So this week's homework, ditch the processed food. You've heard me talk about why processed food is not the best. So yes, that's homework for this week. So stay with me. Next week I'll be back, and I'll be talking about another tip, another point on what we can do to clean up our diets. What does clean eating have to do with gut health? And yeah, it's going to be a long conversation. All right. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michelle, for joining me. And I just want to say thank you for everyone who will be listening to this on YouTube. Okay? Bye. Take care. Until we meet again.